It's been really fun to listen to all these other scholars' experiences, and it's really made me think about my own journey since coming to Carolina 4 years ago and the key role that the Morehead-Cain Foundation has played. My first summer as a scholar, I spent 22 days backpacking and canoeing in the North Woods of Maine. I learned that you can make delicious bread in the middle of the woods, the true meaning of physical vigor, and, most importantly, how to embrace and begin to love uncertainty. My second summer was before everyone did civic collaboration. I spent 6 weeks teaching community-led English classes in Tena, Ecuador, on the edge of the Amazon. I learned about the value of cultural exchange and what chontacuro, a beetle larvae delicacy, tastes like. I also learned that while I didn't want to be a teacher, my larger passion was in helping others. The next school year, I discovered my interests for clinical psychology and decided to spend my third summer working at MindSights, a psychological assessment clinic in Portland, Oregon. I sat on clinical assessments and coded over 200 intake mental health assessments for kids in the foster care system to see what diagnoses were prevalent and what resources were needed in the community. I felt like a light bulb had turned on. I knew what I was passionate about and what I wanted to do for a career. I was already researching potential advisors for clinical psychology PhD programs and applying to research labs at UNC. That next school year, I joined 2 research labs, including Dr. Prinstein's Peer Relations Lab, who you'll get to hear from tomorrow, and worked as a Gill intern at a psychology clinic in the community. So, it only follows that I spent my last Morehead-Cain summer studying the connections between traditional percussive dance in Ireland, Scotland, and Appalachia. Do you have the clicker? Oh, this is it. Sorry, technical difficulties. Well, perhaps I need to back up a bit. My family jokes that I've been clogging and flat-footing for longer than I could walk. And as I grew up at traditional music camps and festivals and my dad's clogging workshops, that isn't far from the truth. Clogging and flat-footing are forms of percussive dance from the Appalachian Mountains with influences from Irish, Scottish, Native American, and African traditions. From the age of 5 to 18, I was on a Southern Appalachian clogging team, and I taught clogging throughout high school. Since coming to college, I'd missed that part of my life. So when the foundation unveiled the new Global Perspective Summer, I knew what I wanted to do. I decided to get off the express lane to clinical psychology and take a more scenic route, if only for the summer. It was definitely a beautiful scenic route, both metaphorically and literally. The Global Perspective Summer is set up as an independent research project where you can go explore a topic you're passionate about anywhere in the world. After reaching out to friends and friends of friends to make contacts in Ireland and Scotland, I decided I would go to 3 weeks of traditional music and dance camps with some of the best instructors in the countries, and would then leave time in between each to follow spontaneous leads that I found once there. My first weekend after I arrived, I went to the small town of Rush in County Dublin, Ireland. I'd seen on an online newspaper article that they were having a local traditional music festival with the Sean-Nós workshop, which is a traditional form of percussive dance from Ireland. I walked into the elementary school, and everyone was very shocked and excited that a random American girl had showed up in their small hometown. I learned my first bit of Sean-Nós dancing, struggling with the weight shifts and the new rhythms, but having a great time. I was planning on taking an afternoon bus back to the city, but I was convinced by some locals to come with them to their community center for an evening of music. I showed them some clogging and was convinced to stay later and later and later until there was only one bus back to the city. I went to where Google Maps said the bus stop was and watched as 33A passed me by with the bus driver waving confusedly back and shrugging his shoulders. Luckily, that was the wrong bus, in addition to being the wrong bus stop, and I made it back to Ireland that night. But that's when I learned to trust the locals and not my phone for the Irish bus schedule in small towns. The next week, I went to Bloss Summer School at the University of Limerick. I learned about the history of Sean-Nós dancing, learned more steps, met incredible musicians, dancers, and academics, and made more friends. The next week, I visited a well-known Sean-Nós dancer named Joseph O'Nocton in his hometown of Spittle. The workshop ended up being just myself and him. The next day, I took 2 buses, a plane, another bus, a train, and a ferry to end up in South Uist in Scotland, a small island off the coast, for a music and dance camp called Keolis. I learned how to say, "Is Misha Kelsey, Hamia Dansa Ag Keolis," which means in Scots Gaelic that my name is Kelsey, I am a dancer at Keolis. I learned a few more phrases, but that's all I got for right now. I learned that Scottish step dancing was reintroduced to the country from Cape Breton in the 90s, and that it's been thriving since. I spent the week immersed in music and dance and was pulled on stage even to demonstrate flat-footing at the big showcase. Also that week, I got to know a professor from the University of Limerick back in Ireland who told me about a one-year dance master's program that they had, and he told me to look into it. Without even looking into it, and within that moment, I knew that I wanted to do it. I wanted my scenic route to last a bit longer. I am currently waiting to hear back about that dance master's in Ireland, and I'm still planning to eventually pursue my PhD in clinical psychology. My major takeaway from this summer was that I don't have to choose. I can pursue more than one passion. For example, this upcoming Friday, I am both turning in the first full draft of my honors thesis on the effects of virality on adolescent suicidal ideation and behavior, and also flying to Spain to study flamenco and its roles in cultural tourism in Andalusia through the Discovery Fund for spring break. While I can't yet demonstrate any flamenco for you all, I would love to show you some of what I did learn this summer. I'll start with a bit of sean-nós, followed by some Scottish step dancing, and end with the flat-footing that I've done my whole life. But before that, I want to say, as you enter college, allow yourself to explore other passions and grow through that self-discovery. After all, you can do everything, but you can't do everything all at once.